I still remember that moment like it was yesterday. The train pulling into Union Station in Chicago. The doors slid open, and a blast of November wind rushed in, carrying the sharp smell of metal, burnt coffee, and something so unmistakably urban that it hit me harder than anything back in our small town. Ethan was right beside me, his hand gripping mine tight, like if he let go, the whole dream would vanish. We stepped onto the platform, dragging our 2 beat-up suitcases, and looked up for the first time at those skyscrapers stabbing into the gray sky. Chicago was massive. It overwhelmed me in the best way. Glass towers reflecting each other endlessly, traffic roaring like a river that never stopped, horns blaring, people talking, music drifting from somewhere, all blending into the symphony I could only call the sound of freedom. I felt tiny, almost pathetic, but also so relieved I could barely breathe. No more staring eyes. No more judgmental glances in the school hallways. No more ducking my head walking past the football field. We rented a tiny studio in Logan Square, 5th floor of an old brick walk-up with no elevator. The place was barely big enough for a queen bed, a mini kitchen, a fold-out desk, and a closet that bumped the bed when you opened it. The landlady was this sweet old woman who said, "You boys are young, you'll be just fine." I smiled and nodded. Ethan just nodded quietly along. I started my first semester at the University of Chicago a week later. The campus was huge, Gothic stone buildings and that massive library. It floored me all over again, but this time with pure joy. I dove into my classes like a drowning man grabbing a lifeline. Literature, history, creative writing, everything made me feel alive for the first time. I stayed up late reading, taking notes, debating with new friends without hiding a damn thing about myself. The first time I casually said, "I have a boyfriend," in a group hangout, and my heart didn't explode from fear. Life-changing. But Ethan was different. He started job hunting on day 3. No college, just a high school diploma and that built body that used to make the whole town proud. He ended up taking manual labor gigs. Finally landed a warehouse job out in Cicero. Loading trucks, driving forklifts, early mornings to late nights. Every day he'd get up at 5, kiss my forehead softly, and slip out quiet. I'd usually still be half asleep, just feeling his warmth leave the bed. When he got home 8, 9 at night, he was wrecked. Hands scratched up, calloused, sometimes bleeding from heavy crates or sharp edges. He'd shower, eat in silence, then sit on our ratty sofa staring out the window without a word. I'd try to ask about his day, but he'd just shake his head. Normal. Tired. At first we still stole those little moments. Him wrapping his arms around me from behind while I cooked ramen, quick kisses before he left for work. Nights pressed close on our narrow bed listening to the L train rumble below. But slowly, the silence crept in. I was buried in school, assignments, deadlines, new friends, late-night coffee runs. Ethan was buried in work, overtime shifts to cover rent, food, transit. We started drifting out of sync. I'd come home late buzzing with ideas and words. He'd be passed out on the sofa with the TV on sports he wasn't watching. Or he'd get home early, wait for me, but when I walked in he'd just glance over and look away. I knew he was trying. I knew he'd given up everything to follow me here. But I could see the exhaustion eating at him. Those muscles he used to be so proud of were just tools now. Those blue eyes that used to burn for me in the old barn were often dull with fatigue and thoughts he kept locked up. One winter night, snow piling up outside, I got home late from a study group. Ethan was at the kitchen table, cold dinner in front of him. He looked up, no smile. "School fun today?" he asked, voice rough. "Yeah, it was great," I said, hanging up my coat. "We talked Faulkner, really cool stuff." He nodded, staring at his scarred hands. "Good. You deserve it." I sat next to him, took his hand. "How about you? How was your day?" Long pause. "Same. Lifting shit all day. Tired." I wanted to comfort him, but words failed. We just sat there in our tiny room in this huge city, listening to snow tap the window and distant traffic. The freedom we dreamed of wasn't some sweet melody. It was noise. The rumble of trains, horns, real life barreling forward without waiting. and we were learning to live with it, even when it choked us. I looked at Ethan staring out the window, streetlights reflecting in his tired eyes. I squeezed his hand harder. We'll be okay, right? Chicago winter dragged on longer than I expected. Snow thick, wind sneaking through old windows, our studio always freezing. I got used to wearing sweaters indoors, sprinting home to escape the bite, life moving faster than ever. But Ethan didn't. I started noticing little things. He'd flinch at loud noises, elevator doors slamming, sirens wailing, drunk neighbors upstairs laughing with beer stench seeping under the door. Each time he'd tense up, fists clenched, then hide it by turning away or pretending to be busy. I asked once late at night in bed, "You okay? You've been jumping a lot." Long silence. "Fine. Just tired." I didn't buy it but didn't push. Time would fix it, I thought. We were thousands of miles from that town. His dad wasn't here. Old bruises long healed. Just memories. But memories don't fade that easy. It all exploded one Friday night in February. I got home with cheap groceries, rent due soon, my books eating cash, his paycheck barely covering basics. We were counting pennies. I set the bags down. Got ramen and some discounted veggies. Simple week. Okay? Save for utilities. Ethan was on the sofa, remote in hand but eyes blank. He looked up, voice sharp. "Again? Last week too, week before that. I work like a dog and we're still eating fucking ramen?" I was shocked. He rarely snapped. "I'm sorry, but money's tight. I'm trying." He stood, pacing our cramped space. "I know, but every damn day like this. I'm so fucking tired, Jake." His voice rose. I stayed calm. "I'm tired too. Classes all day, then cooking. We're both trying." He stopped, spun toward me. "Trying? You sit in warm libraries talking with friends, reading cool books. I'm out in the cold warehouse, hands torn to shit lifting crates." His words cut deep. Tears stung. "You think I'm not doing this for us? I'm studying so we don't have to struggle forever." He slammed his fist on the counter, bam. A cheap plate I just washed crashed to the floor, shattering. Silence. I stared at the pieces, then at him, and I saw it. For a split second, eyes wild, red, just like the stories he told about his dad in the old barn. Fists clenched, shoulders shaking, breathing heavy. I stepped back instinctively, heart pounding with fear. Ethan looked at me, then his hands, then the shards. Face drained of color. "Jake!" His voice broke, tiny. I'm sorry." He sank to the floor amid the broken pieces, hands over his head, shoulders trembling. I heard quiet sobs. I stood frozen. Fear lingered, but seeing him like that broke my heart. I knelt beside him, avoiding glass, hand on his shoulder. "I was scared, Ethan," I whispered. "That look, it scared me." He looked up, eyes red. "I know. I'm scared of myself." Voice shaking. "I don't want this. I don't want to become him." We sat there forever on the cold floor. I held him. He leaned into me, crying silently. First time in months he let me see him that vulnerable. Next morning, while I slept, I heard him quietly sweeping glass. He sat by the bed watching me. When I woke, he whispered, "I'm gonna get help." I just nodded. The next week he started a free support group at the community center. Young adults who'd survived family abuse. He came home later, but his eyes were lighter. He shared bits, slowly, about others in the group, speaking his past without judgment for the first time. "I thought I was the only one," he said one night over dinner, the first non-silent meal since the fight. "But I'm not. Some had it worse." I reached across, took his hand. "You're not him, Ethan. You're trying to be different. That's what matters." He gave me a weak smile, the first real one in forever. "Learn something today," he said. "The cracks in the mirror don't always show the real you. Sometimes they're just old breaks." I squeezed tighter. Snow still falling outside, but the room felt warmer. We were far from home, but old ghosts followed. Now we were facing them together. Spring came to Chicago slowly, like the city wasn't ready to let go of winter. Snow melted into puddles, parks smelling of wet earth. Ethan was changing little by little but clear. He talked more after group, laughed for real while cooking, even shared dreams. No more nightmares about his dad, but visions of a small woodworking shop, making tables and chairs himself. I thought we were on the right track. Then his phone rang one Tuesday night in April. We were in bed, I reading for a presentation, him scrolling. Unknown number, Old Town area code. He frowned, hesitated, answered. Hello. I heard a man's voice. Familiar, gravelly, probably Coach Mike, old assistant to his dad. Ethan bolted upright, face paling. What? When? His voice dropped. Yeah, I got it. Thanks for telling me. He hung up, sat frozen. Phone slipped to the sheets. Ethan? I set my book down, sat up. Who was it? What happened? He looked at me, eyes empty. My dad caused an accident. Drunk driving. Hit 3 cars on the highway. 2 people seriously hurt. I froze. Is he okay? He's alive. Arrested for DUI and injury. In hospital jail awaiting trial. He buried his face in his hands. I wrapped arms around him from behind. Felt him shaking. The house is gone too, he whispered. Bank foreclosed for debts and damages. Everything left of Mom. Her photos, old stuff, gone. I had no words. That house, where he grew up, Mom's smiling photos before cancer, where he hid in the garage crying alone, no longer his. Calls flooded in after old acquaintances, then strangers, creditors, insurance, victims' lawyers. They tracked his number through old records, friends, anything. Each ring made him flinch. He'd silence or ignore. One night over cheap tacos from a food truck. His phone buzzed nonstop. He glared. Who? Creditor. Says I'm jointly liable. House was in both names back then. He tossed the phone down. I ran like a coward, he said bitterly. Left him alone to destroy himself. Now it all lands on me. I'm the runaway Jake. No. I gripped his hand. You didn't run. You chose to live. You left because staying would have killed you slowly. He shook his head. But I feel guilty. Mom, if she were alive, she wouldn't want me abandoning him. I stayed quiet. No words erased that guilt. I just held him, felt his heavy breaths. Nights after, he barely slept. I'd wake to him at the window, staring at traffic, eyes red. He opened up about Mom rare stories, her teaching him to build his first bookshelf at 10, singing old country while cooking. That house held her scent. I can't let it vanish without doing something, he said one night, voice raw. I have to go back. Once. To close it. Don't, I begged. You're just stabilizing. It'll only hurt more. Let lawyers handle it. He looked at me, eyes pained. If I don't face it, I'll run forever. I don't want to live feeling like the coward who abandoned family. I wanted to stop him, keep him here in our little studio building something new. But he needed this for himself, not his dad. I nodded. Then go. But come back to me. Okay? He crushed me in a hug. I promise. Days later, he bought a one-way Greyhound ticket. I saw him off at dawn. April wind still cold, old jacket, small backpack. We stood silent, hands clasped. I'll call when I get there. I swallowed tears. I'll be waiting. Bus pulled away, taking him down the highway. I watched till it vanished, feeling part of my heart go with him. Days without him felt endless. I tried focusing on school, but my mind wandered to that town, what he faced. Just brief texts. Arrived. Everything okay. Coming home soon. The night he returned to Chicago, we lay in dim light, him finally telling everything, voice soft, pausing like reliving it. Town hadn't changed much. Same quiet main streets, flickering diner neon, overgrown football field. No one recognized him at the bus stop. No waves for the old quarterback star. Relief mixed with a pang. He went straight to the county jail hospital, low building next to the sheriff's office. Guard checked ID. Let him in. Dad in a private room, one wrist cuffed to the bed, leg in cast. Looked decades older, more gray, gaunt, eyes dulled by pain meds and lingering booze. When Ethan walked in, his dad looked up, sneered. "Well, look who crawled back. The runaway son." Voice dripping venom. No concern, no remorse, just blame. Ethan stood at the foot of the bed, gripping backpack straps. "I came to end this." Dad laughed coldly. "End it? You left me alone. Ran off with some queer freak now playing hero? I sacrificed everything. Made you a star. And this is how you repay me." Each word stung, blood rushing. But Ethan breathed deep, remembering group lessons. "This isn't about me. This is failure he can't own." "I'm not here to fight," he said, calmer than expected. "I'm here to say I'm done. No more responsibility. House debts, all of it. I'm out." Dad's eyes bulged. Tried sitting but Cuff yanked him back. "You dare? That's your mother's house. You gonna let me rot in jail? You bastard." Ethan pulled papers from his backpack, prepared by a Chicago lawyer. Disclaimer of inheritance and joint liability. Placed them on the bedside table. "Police will handle the rest. Here's the house keys." Set the old key ring on top. "I don't need them anymore," Dad roared, face purple. "Traitor. Coward. I'd rather have no son." Ethan didn't reply. He just really looked, for the first time in years. Not the monster of childhood, not the town hero. Just a broken middle-aged man cuffed to a hospital bed, destroying himself with booze and bitterness. For the first time, pity outweighed fear or anger. He turned, walked out. Didn't look back despite the yelling. In the hall, he handed papers and keys to the guard, signed off. Done. Outside, April sky strangely clear. Breeze carried fresh-cut grass from nearby fields. He walked slowly to the old stadium, once their kingdom. Stands empty, silent. He sat on the bench outside the locker room hallway, pulled the old football from his backpack. Turned it in his hands, worn leather, loose stitches. Last tie to old Ethan. He set it down neatly on the bench, like laying down the past. Shouldered his pack, walked out the gate. No looking back. When he finished telling me, voice hoarse. I held him tight, said nothing, just let him rest on my shoulder. I got it then. He hadn't just cut ties with his dad. The town. He'd cut free from the oldest, broken parts of himself. And he came back to me, lighter, stronger, fully ours. After that, Ethan was reborn. He quit the warehouse the next week. Don't need it anymore, he told the boss. Not letting my hands just lift boxes forever. Boss was surprised but wished him luck. Ethan came home smiling, the first in months of grunt work. Then he did something I never saw coming. Enrolled in woodworking and furniture design classes at the community college nearby. That night he brought home the application. Eyes shining. I always loved working with wood, he said. Mom taught me my first bookshelf at 10. Then Dad said real men play ball. Stay tough. So I buried it. I hugged him from behind. You can do it now. No one's stopping you. Classes started late May. 3 evenings a week he came home smelling of fresh sawdust, pockets full of shavings. First project, a box, corners a bit off, but he showed it off like a kid. We put it on the kitchen table for keys and wallets. At the same time we learned to be real with each other. No more heavy silences. No hiding feelings to spare the other worry. I told him about stressful school days, moments I feared we were drifting. He shared lingering anxiety. How group helped him understand himself. We sat face to face on the sofa, spilling everything. Sometimes tears, sometimes laughs, always ending in a hug. We weren't scared kids running anymore. We were grown men building a real home, even in this cramped studio. Then June brought Pride. I'd done small campus events before. Never invited Ethan, thought he wasn't ready. This year he suggested it first. Let's go to Pride, he said over dinner. Together. I stared. You sure? He nodded. I want to. Want to stand there holding your hand in front of everyone. No more hiding. Parade day was perfect. Sunny Sunday. Rainbow flags everywhere. Music blasting from floats. Laughter mixing with drums. We kept it simple. My love is love T, his plain blue one, but he wore the little rainbow bracelet I got him. Crowds packed the streets. People dancing, families with strollers, older couples holding hands. I watched Ethan. Tense at first, shoulders stiff, scanning like expecting old faces. Then he took a breath, reached for my hand. I squeezed back. We walked through the sea of people, hands locked, never letting go. Kids cheered us as we passed. An old lady waved smiling. No pointing, no judgment, just love and freedom everywhere. Mid-crowd, Ethan turned to me, eyes glistening. "I love you," he said loud enough to cut through the music. I grinned till tears came. "I love you too." Ethan wasn't afraid anymore. He stood tall, confident, and for the first time I saw him truly belong, here with us. That night home, exhausted but buzzing, he rested his head on my chest. Used to think being a man meant being strong alone. Now I know real strength is leaning on the one you love. I stroked his hair. "And I'm always here for you to lean on." Outside, Chicago still roared, cars, people, life. But it didn't choke us anymore. We'd learned to stand by learning to hold each other up. A year flew by so fast I barely noticed. Time in Chicago wasn't measured in cold days or anxious nights anymore. It was Ethan's early mornings in the small shared woodshop with classmates. Evenings I came home with library books and his clothes smelling of sawdust. Weekends at the Lincoln Park Farmers Market or just crashing on the sofa watching old movies. I got an undergrad research scholarship one November afternoon, exactly 1 year after we arrived. Email said full-paid summer program with a renowned American lit professor. I stared at the screen stunned. Huge for experience, resume, pay. When I video called Mom, she cried. Ethan just quietly hugged me from behind, chin on my shoulder. "You deserve it." And Ethan, he had his first real clients. Friends from school ordered coffee tables, bookshelves. A little Wicker Park cafe hired him to redo their bar in reclaimed wood. He posted pics on the new Instagram I helped set up. Orders trickled in. Not tons, but enough for that smile when his phone rang. We still lived in the old studio, but it didn't feel cramped. Felt warm. Ethan built shelves. A real small dining table instead of fold-out, thrifted rug. Walls held photos. Us beaming at last year's Pride amid rainbows. Him sneaking one of me asleep on library books, and an older one, us shoulder to shoulder in the dusty old barn. Young faces lit by sunlight through cracks. One crisp fall evening, Chicago chill back, we sat by the window as usual. Traffic below, neon reflecting on wet streets. I sipped coffee. Ethan across from me, polishing something in his lap. "Close the window? It's cold," I said. "Wait," he replied, voice nervous excited. He slid a small wooden box across the table. Dark walnut, perfectly polished, joints seamless. Weeks of careful work obvious. Lid carved simple. 2 curving lines intertwined like clasped hands. I opened it. Inside, red velvet lining an empty space. Inside the lid, hand-carved words. "Thank you for not leaving me on that football field." I read it over and over, fingers tracing letters. Eyes burning. "Ethan," he looked at me. Eyes red too. "Made it for you. To hold whatever. Rings, letters, or just memories." I got up, straddled his lap. We held each other tight by the window. City sounds like its heartbeat. "I love you," I whispered into his neck. "I love you," he said, voice thick. "Forever." We stayed like that forever, watching Chicago light up. Skyscrapers sparkling, trains rumbling, people hurrying under umbrellas. All once so foreign. Now home. The past was still there. Scars remained. On Ethan's hands from warehouse days, in my heart from lonely nights back in town, in both our memories of the barn, the stadium night we almost lost everything, moments we nearly broke. But they didn't hurt anymore. Just reminders of the road here. Home wasn't that Midwest town with empty streets and side eyes. Wasn't Ethan's old house now someone else's. Wasn't even this little studio, though we'd made it ours. Home was wherever we had each other. Ethan's steady heartbeat against my ear each night. His laugh when I told dumb school stories. His hand locked in mine through pride crowds. This wooden box. And all the tomorrows we'd write together. I rested my head on his shoulder, listening to him breathe. Outside, Chicago kept roaring, moving nonstop. Inside, just us, and the shared rhythm of a home that doesn't need an address on any map.